Newsflash, I don't like the Strokes well anymore, which is why I'm the perfect person to talk about this book by Gordon Raphael. The world is going to love this, and I loved this book. Even more than the band, actually. I the first time I read it, I was kind of like, Gordon Raphael. Uh, I kind of did get a bit weirded out by him initially. Like, I'm not trying to be rude, but because I'm weird. I'm probably just as weird as he is, but just something about him. The first time I read it, and obviously I wasn't reading it that properly, so I was like, I'm not quite sure. My dad absolutely couldn't stand his writing. Like, I gave this book to my dad because I was like, do you want to read this? And he just said, no, can't read it. The way he writes is really difficult to understand, and I totally get that. His writing style is not for everyone because there is a lot of like capital letters in unnecessary places. Like, it is necessary, but it's like more than an average book or memoir would have, and a lot of more exclamation marks and stuff that probably a traditional publisher would be like, don't go there. But because I do have to admire him though, because he put it on a sort of like publishing company. I don't think it was self-published, but it's a company I've never heard before. And I actually tried to submit one of my books through to them, but sadly got declined because they only take non-fiction. But they're very nice about it, which is good. The lady even left her name afterwards, so it wasn't like an automated email. But anyway, I've listened to a few of his. Like, I'm glad I borrowed this for the second time because I learnt so much more, and I loved it more than the first time I read it. And so, I'd love him to do like a part two or something, maybe like his experiences recording like some other bands that like Heinz, because I absolutely love Heinz. So I'd love to hear like his experiences recording them. Like, obviously it's not going to sell many copies and they're not as big of a band, but it's still fascinating because I heard a little bit that they worked with him for Heinz's second album, which I absolutely loved. I think it's my all-time favourite Heinz album. It used to be The Prettiest Curse, but I did talk about that in another video, but I think the one Gordon Raphael worked on was the best one, and why not? He produced one of the greatest bands probably ever. But that's saying a lot, so I don't want to be one of those people who say that. But yeah, this book also talks about his work with Regina Spektor and the Libertines, which I was kind of confused about at first, but I'm glad I read it again because then it mentions that he was going to produce for the Libertines, but then he got dropped by Rough Trade, which is just such a mean move to do. It's very odd because Rough Trade was like the company that wanted him, like, in the first place, signed the Strokes in the first place. So to have them suddenly go, oh, Gordon Raphael, don't do anything with the Libertines anymore, it's a bit strange. But there you go. He still technically worked with them, but he just got dropped to produce their record. I've definitely heard a lot of mean things said about this guy, but then again, there's always going to be people who, there's always going to be opponents or people who, no matter what occupation you have, no matter how prolific you are in the world, or how little known you are in the world, like me, you can still have criticism or envy or ridicule thrown at you, and that's just part of the job, I guess. But reading this especially got the feeling that he is like very like a private person, and obviously this was a huge step forward for him and he was so grateful, but it's still quite, you know what comes with that is a level of vile vitriol and all that kind of stuff, which I'm sure he didn't get. It wasn't like he got heaps of hate, but just from so I am writing a book, and one of the reasons I did borrow this book, admittedly, was to help me write my book. So I'm trying not to copy and paste every single thing from this book, because people need to read the book. They shouldn't read my book. Maybe I would get arrested for that. I'm not sure but I'll credit him obviously if I cite his work. But yeah, I'm glad I did read it again. And but I'm not gonna lie, Julian mostly Julian, the Stokes and Regina Spektor come off as huge assholes in this book. I don't think that was Gordon's intention, but I know that's how they approach their work. But it kind of made me feel sorry for him as a producer, because she's just trying to be very nice, and like, I think you still need to treat someone with respect, because you don't hear about, like, nowadays, like, you wouldn't hear that Taylor Swift yelled at her producer or something. If that was in the news, people would be like, obviously there'd be so much hate thrown at Taylor Swift, and so many people like criticising her because she was being abusive to the producer. And I'm not saying that they were abusive, but it wasn't like, but it still kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And I don't know if I was a musician, I don't know if that would be how I would approach a recording process. I don't think it's very effective. And so I won't really go into detail too much about that, because I want you to read the book and see what you think. But in terms of, in my opinion, in terms of the, obviously these musicians have very different brains to ours, which is why my dad said that quite a lot. That's why they turn to drugs and all sorts of, substances, because it helps them write better, and it just gives out their creative side. So no wonder since like the 60s, and like ever since music first started, people were taking drugs to help, like the Beatles, pretty sure, when they went to India for spiritual awakening or whatever. So this happens all the time, for like decades in history. But especially if it's a band you just kind of did look up to, and it's not necessarily his fault, but just along the way they've, like, some members in particular, and other artists that he's worked with, I do not really support or agree with, also not just because of their present actions, but just based on this book. Like, they might not be true, they've never been proven to be true, but I still have that nagging feeling of what exactly am I reading? And he has done, and that's one thing for sure, Gordon has done a real good job of presenting this as real story. So I can tell he's not made anything up. This is real experiences that he's had, so I commend him for not being hesitant to write anything down that he thought might upset the people he worked with, or just might, it's not like he was mentioning like so and so did this to me or whatever, but there's obviously some stuff in here like, wow, he chose to include that's like pretty good. Like, not even with about major bands that he worked with, but just like interactions with random people, like whether it be A&R guys or bands like Radiohead or The Doors, like people who had nothing to do with this, but he still doesn't. And Damon Albarn, like, I cannot stand that guy for the life of me. He talks about a really odd interaction he had with him, so I'll let you read the book to find that out. But maybe I'll do an audio book of this, who knows, because I know some people really do need, and he did say he was going to do an audio book, but I don't know if that's been done yet. But I know it's probably illegal to do so, but I see a lot of people on YouTube doing them, and I saw one for Dave Grohl's memoir, and I'm also planning to do one for Carrie Brownstein's memoir, so I'd love to read hers again. Hunger Makes Me a Modern Girl. I didn't love it, but it was short and to the point, so I'll definitely give it another go, and I'll give you my update on that. But for now, it's time for you to pick up The World is Going to Love This by Gordon Raphael. Essential Halloween reading. There's a lot of really weird, spooky stuff in this book, and you do not want to miss it. It's been out for almost over a year now, so what are you doing? Read it.